How's it going, everybody? My name's Avid, and today we are going to do something a little different. So we are actually on the Adventure Map server right now, and we are going to put together a server-wide event. Specifically, we are going to work on these evil towers that are going to spawn all over the server. The players are going to have to find these towers and destroy them in order for the event to be over. So we're going to work on creating one of these towers right now in this little field behind me, and then I'm going to figure out how to make it spawn all around our world. So let's get started. So the first thing we're gonna do is a little bit of building. I'm thinking of starting out with a palette something like this, where we have red nether brick, we have polished deep slate, some black glazed terracotta, some polished basalt, and some obsidian. And I'm sure we're going to add a couple more blocks or remove a couple from this, but I want these towers to really look sinister. And this is roughly the size of the tower that we're gonna go with, because I need to fit a whole bunch of redstone and command components, so it needs to be pretty wide. And I also want players to be able to enter the tower and destroy something at the top to effectively deactivate the tower. All right, so this thing is starting to take shape. I'll describe what is going on here. So this is actually going to be ground level. So this is the part that's actually where players are going to enter the tower. But I needed to make some room. As you guys know, with me, I like to make command block rooms. And so the command block room is going to sit just down beneath the tower. And this is kind of very foreboding and perfect that it's raining on this evil tower that we're about to construct. So obviously there are so many more details to go on this thing, but this is the start of the tower, and that's gonna be our command room down below. So it looks like we have the entrance basically done here. I used nether brick to frame the door and red nether brick on the inside, so there's that really cool contrast. And then I used a bunch of deep slate stairs and added some cobbled variety there just to make these like menacing pointy structures. And then above that, I made a pretty neat design with nether brick stairs that I really like, and I backed it with these basalt pillars, which I think also looks really good. So now I need to build around the sides, make at least 1 to 2 more layers, and so once I have the tower done, I'll be right back and I'll show you guys what that looks like, because then we're gonna start to get into the fun part, which is actually doing the command block stuff that we do best. So let's get this tower finished. And I know I said I was gonna come back when I had more of the tower done, but I think this first level turned out amazingly. Like, it just looks so evil and so sinister. I love it. So yeah, I'm just gonna start working on the other layers now, and this is looking really good on the inside. Awesome. All right, let's keep moving. So when I made my first tower in Minecraft, I showed it off to one of my friends who is a mechanical engineer, and he told me it wasn't very realistic looking. And you know, I mean, it's Minecraft, right? We don't have to make things look realistic, but if you do, the builds tend to just be a lot more immersive, right? And so what he told me, which was really obvious, was, you know, my tower was basically one diameter all the way from bottom to top, and that would not be very structurally sound. So he suggested that I build kind of like a cake almost. I have these layers that slowly become smaller, gradually smaller and smaller, so the thing is structurally stable. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do here with this next layer, is I'm gonna have another circular layer that's concentric with the bottom, but I'm gonna make it gradually a little bit smaller. And then I'm probably gonna do one more layer on top of that. So let's go ahead and try that out. And placing down these red nether brick walls with these red glass panes kind of looks like these centipedes almost climbing up the wall, and it's gross and it's amazing. Huh, maybe my friend was right after all. It actually does look really good, like a very evil birthday cake. All right, I gotta get the last layer of the cake on, but I'm loving how this thing looks. You know when you're starting a build and you just feel that inspiration and you just can place blocks so easily? I think this one is really coming along really nicely. I love these little centipede walls, and I think the red is just so sinister, and just wait till you see what we do with the command blocks. Sinister, check. Cake, check. Multi-tiered, evil, spiky, check, check. Roof, not so much. It's like the worst part of any build. Not the worst part, but you know, the hardest part for me on any build is the roof. I'm so bad at this, but I'm gonna try. I started to incorporate some of these spikes in, and I really like how they turned out. So I'm thinking of having a roof that has a bunch of those spikes. So let's see if we can work those in. As with most roofs, I like to give them kind of this overhang so that they look a little more realistic. And I'm hoping to try to curve this roof up to like a wizard's tower spike, and then I'll add as many of these little spike pieces as I can. But for now, I'm gonna just focus on this overhang and see if I can somehow gradually get this thing to flow upwards. Okay, this thing's starting to take a little shape, kind of one slab at a time, to try to make sure that it slopes from both the left and the right and the front and the back. And I actually think this is looking pretty nice. This might be one of the nicest roofs I've ever made. Yeah, let's just keep going with it and see how it turns out. I really like it though. Yes, I think this is looking really nice. I just need to sneak in a couple more of these spikes up top here. I think that could look nice. And yeah, what I ended up doing here is, if you guys watch Building with BOO, he has some awesome builds. And something he did recently is he's doing these kind of spiky roofs, and he does 3 layers of spikes. So you have a wall, into a fence, into a chain, and you get this really cool effect from far away. So if we just kind of back away for a second, you get these really awesome and dramatic spikes. I think that looks great. So I'm gonna stick one right in the center of the top, and then I'm pretty sure we're good here. I could not have planned it any better. We have a lightning storm in the background, and here is our beautiful, evil tower that we're now going to kit out with a bunch of command blocks to make this server-wide tower event. So I need to think about, what are the monsters that are spawned? What are the threats to the player? And how do players defuse this tower? I have some ideas. Let's get started. Okay. So after floating around this tower and brainstorming a little bit, I think I have an idea of how it's gonna work. So I think the whole tower is going to be activated when the players step on this pressure plate. And that is going to spawn, hopefully they can get through the door, that is going to spawn monsters on all 3 levels of this tower. And then we are going to, down below, watch for the defeat of those monsters on each level. So once players defeat the monster on this level, then they are going to be teleported up to this level. They're going to have to defeat the monsters on this level, and then once they beat that, they're going to come up to this level here, and they're going to have one final fight in really tight quarters. And then just up above, there will be something that they can shoot, and when they shoot that, like maybe it's an end crystal or something, it'll explode, and then the tower is going to be deactivated. And a way to kind of, I guess I would say, harass the players to come do this tower is, if the towers are rendered, they are going to be announcing messages like, you know, I am a dangerous tower. I'll do something better than that. But, and I also think they're going to randomly apply status effects to players on the server. And that way players are going to know, hey, there's a tower out there somewhere. We need to find it and we need to destroy it. So I think this is going to be challenging, mainly because I don't have a lot of room. I haven't given myself a lot of room to work with on the command block layer. I think it should be enough though, so we'll see. So I'm gonna start working on the command block layer, and then I will be right back. All right, so we're gonna start with a function here, which is going to be run when the players step on the pressure plate just up above. And this function is going to summon in a bunch of monsters, a couple monsters on each floor. So we're gonna stub this thing out first. So this is what's gonna call the function, or this is gonna be the start of the function, and that's gonna be turned into a redstone block when the players step on that button. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna have just 4 command blocks here, and actually I'm gonna just make my life a little easier. Move these over to chain command blocks, and this is gonna summon 4 monsters on the first floor. Then we'll summon a certain number of monsters on the second floor, and then finally a certain number of monsters on the third floor. And that's gonna be the start of it. And then the next thing that's going to happen is, once the monsters are all spawned, we are gonna start listening for their defeat. right? Because once the monsters are defeated, players are then going to advance to the next level. So let me get these monster spawns in first, and then I'll show you how we watch for those monsters to be defeated. Okay, so I think I have the first layer of monsters done, and I also added another function here to remove those monsters, because eventually we're going to have to do that as well. So I populated these with some pretty, I would say, sophisticated monsters. They are zombies with a bunch of armor, and they have a name, so let's just take a quick look at that. I call them the Tower Scourge, and I think they look awesome. Yeah, they have some pretty decent enchanted gear. They have these red enchanted pants, which I think look really good, and I just love how their appearance looks there. So then when we press this button, or when that is activated somewhere else, the Tower Scourge is eliminated. So the next thing we need to do is we need to have basically a watcher, an observer, to see when the Tower Scourge from this layer have all been defeated. So I'm gonna work on that really quickly. It should be fairly straightforward. All right, so how we're gonna do this is essentially, this block is always going to be a redstone block when the tower is running. So we can take advantage of that because that's going to then move power all the way over to this area over here. Then we're going to have a repeat command block that is always active. And the reason for that, you'll see in a moment. Now, this command block is going to check to see if all of the monsters on that first floor have been defeated. And the cool thing is I already built a selector to basically kill all the monsters on the first level. I gave them all a tag called Tower Level 1. So basically the way this is going to work is we're going to say execute. I think we're going to use unless, which basically says if this is not true, then we want this to be high. So then we're going to say execute unless entity, and this is basically saying execute if there are no monsters on Tower Level 1 within a radius of 25 blocks. Make sure to always use radius as a part of your commands, because otherwise, you're going to select potentially other things in your world, and you have a lot of collisions, so you really don't want to have to deal with that. So anyways, this test has failed because I think we have 4 guys up there. You can see their name. There's the Scourge walking around. So that output is not going to be high. But then when I kill them all, now that output goes high, and that means the players have defeated the monsters. Now, the good news is we know the players are in the tower when this block is high. So if we AND together these two signals, if we AND together these two signals, then we know that 1 is the player is in the tower, and 2, we know that the player has also defeated all of the monsters. So this is the basic pattern for figuring out if the players beat the first level. And then what we're gonna do is we're basically just gonna extend this signal out to the next check. And so this is the success output, and then we'll move this to check for the second layer of the monsters being defeated, and then the third layer, and then finally the explosion up at the top where the players shoot and dismantle the tower. So it's getting a little tight in here, but I think we have everything we need. Let's get the other layers going. All right, and a couple moments later here, maybe an hour or 2, but I think I have come up with a technique to get the monsters to spawn in the right places, and then a technique to watch for those monsters to die. Keep in mind, we're going to summon these towers all over the server, so we can't use any absolute coordinates to spawn monsters in. We have to use all techniques with relative coordinates and armor stands in order to get monsters to spawn in. So let me just show you how this works. So this here is going to turn on the whole tower, right? So we're going to summon in the 3 distinct layers here, and then these repeat blocks are watching for monsters on each of those layers, and when those monsters are killed, it's then going to fire off these command blocks, which just right now say win floor 1. So if I just kind of hover up to floor 1, you'll notice we have 4 Tower Scourge, and you'll also notice there are these armor stands that are hidden inside of layer 1. That's exactly how we manage summoning in these monsters, is we look for armor stands with the tag layer 1 spawner, and then we spawn all of the monsters at those armor stands. So that's actually how we've achieved 4 zombie spawns with just 1 command block. Pretty neat. And also, it's relatively positioned. So once I capture this entire structure with a structure block, which we'll check out in a second, these armor stands are going to come along with it. Now the next layer here is wither skeletons, and these are the tower damned. And again, the same idea is we have these hidden armor stands. Now these armor stands aren't actually visible to players, only when you're in spectator mode, so that's the cool thing. And then finally, the final floor is actually a very challenging one. The tower sustainer is a piglin brute. This is gonna be hard, guys. I'm not gonna lie, these guys are gonna have a lot of trouble. So if we come down here and we kill off all of the tower scourge, I will do this, and then we notice we win floor 1. So that's going to then trigger the player to be teleported upwards, and we'll probably have another invisible armor stand here to teleport the player to. And with this command, we win floor 2, right? Pretty cool. Okay, and then finally, looks like floor 3 was completed on its own, so we're gonna have to see what happened there. But basically, once players defeat the piglin brute at the top, we're then going to trigger an end crystal up here, and we're gonna watch for the destruction of that end crystal. I'll probably have to give a player a snowball too, just in case they didn't bring an arrow or anything that can shoot it, but that should do it. And then we'll watch for the destruction of that end crystal. And the reason that guy disappeared at the top was because I went into spectator mode, and that monster didn't have persistence required on, so there was no active player in the area, and the mob was unloaded. So all I have to do is attach that to this mob, and then they are not going to disappear on us. So there we go. So remember how I was gonna put an end crystal at the top of the tower, and then when that exploded, the tower would be destroyed? Well, I didn't think about the fact that it would actually literally destroy the top of the tower. So I think I'm gonna have to pad a little bit of obsidian and try to stuff the crystal deep into that. I'm gonna do some testing to make sure that it doesn't do this. Oh, fortunately it's only like 15 minutes of work, but still. Oh, that's such a bummer that it just exploded. Oh well, all right, I'll be right back. I am slowly coming to the realization that no matter what we do, we are gonna blow the top off of that tower. I mean, even the fact that I protected a couple of these areas on the top, the whole bottom just gets completely exploded. I mean, I guess I could fill it with water, or we could let the top explode and then I could replace it with a structure block. I'm gonna think about this for a second because I really want an end crystal in there. I think exploding that is gonna look so cool. So let's see what we can do. All right, so I think I'm gonna go with the structure block route, which means that the entire top of the tower will self-regenerate after it explodes, which I think is gonna be really awesome. For those of you who don't know how structure blocks work, I'm going to do a whole video on them if I haven't already. Basically, the way they work is they kind of work like the clone command, but you can save entire builds in your world block by block. And the cool thing about structure blocks is you can then save them to a particular structure name and then regenerate that structure anywhere in the world and even rotate that structure. So structure blocks are ridiculously powerful. And in fact, you can even activate them by redstone. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. So once the top explodes, the tower will remain exploded, and I think that's a great indication to the user that they completed the tower. But I think eventually when the tower regenerates itself, the top will be put back on using this structure block. So I'm gonna save this structure block here and then explode the top, and hopefully we can regenerate it. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. And with our end crystal in place, hopefully we're not making the same mistake twice. It's not exploding with a snowball. Okay, it exploded. I thought snowballs exploded it, but maybe punching it does. All right, so now that our tower is ruined, hopefully this load command works and we didn't just waste another 25 minutes. So we're gonna switch this over to load mode. We're gonna click load. And yes, our tower is back in place. Okay, so this is exactly what we're going for. And the question now is, now that I have the snowballs, will this kill me? Yes. Yes, it will kill me. Well, that's a problem. Okay, I'm starting to feel kind of evil now, because I basically hooked up this timer here to give a random player on the server damage until they deal with this tower, and it also plays that really creepy bell sound. Here's the command. It's actually really simple. I basically say give a random player who's not in creative mode instant damage. Oh, and it looks like it hit SB Django, so that's awesome. All right, so now all I have to do is button up the success here, and then players are gonna have to find these towers and deal with them. Otherwise, a random player is going to take damage every time this hopper clock ticks over. Just in case you were curious what the final result of the command block room looked like, well, here is the rat's nest that is that room. Yeah, honestly, everything does fit in here, but just barely. I added a couple extra things here that I didn't mention. This is the final loot chest, as well as I added a repeating command block system to teleport any items lost by the player into this hopper, which then gets collected into this storage system, and then potentially delivered to them as loot at the end. So this chest actually gets cloned up to the very top floor at the end. I also added this mining fatigue continuous effect around the tower, so that way players can't just mine through the tower and cheat their way in. Honestly, this thing is wow. It's a lot, but I am so thrilled with how it turned out. All right, and we're gonna save this thing as Evil Tower. So let's go ahead and click save. Oh, and we wanna make sure we include the entities because all of our nice armor stands are in there. So let's hit save. Okay, so we have a structure block ready to be loaded, and I have it set at a different angle just to make sure that there aren't any differences there. So we click the load button and beautiful. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna hop into survival and I'm going to try to survive this thing. I don't have any food, but I have resistance from the last tower I defeated. So let's just give it a shot. And I have awoken a tower. All right, let's take these guys out. Okay, and we are on the wither part of the fight now. And we are going up the sides. Okay, and now finally, oh, this mean guy, he is the worst. Take him out, take him out. Oh God, how does he? All right, okay, now I just need to take the crystal out and boom, perfect. We have our loot, beautiful. This is some stuff for the next quest. And that is our tower. Thank you so much for sticking around till the end of the video. I know this was probably a little bit longer than you were expecting. I was not expecting this video to go on this long either, but we had building, we had command blocks, we had debugging and problems and troubleshooting, but I absolutely loved making this video. If you liked this content, I'd absolutely appreciate if you left a like, and if you wanna see more of this content in the future, please hit that subscribe button. It helps out a whole lot. Until then, I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.